Being a spiritual awakening coach means that you are willing to be brave enough to look inside yourself and love yourself long before you are offering that to your clients. It is very practical. It is daily. It starts in yourself, in your own home, and it expands out from there. This is not something where you can spiritually bypass into suddenly becoming some kind of a guru sitting on a mountaintop that's so heavenly minded you're no earthly good. It is not about meditating for 12 hours straight until suddenly you kind of transcend this humble earthly world. It's really about looking inside and finding that, you know what, there's parts of you that might be pretty annoying or get triggered sometimes. And you're going to love yourself through that and own your whole stories and learn how to apologize. It's doing the work to be a real person who is grounded and centered and strong in yourself to the extent that it expands so that you can love yourself through some really hard stuff. Once you can do that, and that is lifelong learning. I do not have like a graduation cap on by any means, but I sure am a lot farther than I was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. The more you love yourself, the more you can love your clients. And it's not an airy-fairy kind of love. It's the real deal. The more you master the ability to love yourself, even when you're triggered, even when you've behaved out of alignment and had to come back into alignment, the more you can do that, the more powerful your love is for the person sitting across from you. I can guarantee that the person in the client chair, the coachee chair, your conversation partner, whoever you're sitting with, has things about themselves that they are afraid of or ashamed of, or maybe they're really proud of. They might have blind spots, who knows? Your job is to get them to find their own loving presence that is able to witness and welcome and gather the rest of the teammates so that all parts of their system are working together, not only for their own benefit, but for the benefit of the world around. So when you get that practical spiritual alignment inside, that's when you start seeing a huge effect out there. And it doesn't happen backwards. Somebody who's not quite steady inside and is wobbling and afraid, they might think they're doing the exact same behaviors as Mother Teresa or whatever person we think of as really out there doing a world of good. It doesn't have the same effect until you love yourself. And so that's what we're about at Awaken. It's not about doing first, it's about being. And from there, people are just going to know that it's aligned. They're going to feel that solid, loving strength from inside. And it's not going to feel like they're having to set a goal and push through and try to be different, or it's not about self-improvement. It's about being yourself and kind of taking it all with a sense of humor. You know how you see like those old ladies who just have that twinkle in their eye? They're just so funny because they accept themselves. Why not do it a bit younger? Why not just get to the point where we can say, yeah, this is all of me. And I'm so lovable with all my lovable weaknesses. And that means you are too. I can remember a time when I was in the receiving end of being loved. One time I was given a DISC assessment, and I don't even remember what the 4 things were, but I was taking the test with about 200 people, and I was in a huge room, and we were all kind of outed about what our dominant style was. And so the room was divided into quadrants, and there were, 50 people over here all chattering away who had some kind of nice personality that was friendly and fun. And you could feel this really nice, happy energy from them. And then there was another quadrant with another, 100 people in it that were whatever they were the easygoing people or whatever. I and this other kind of jerk dude who was kind of known across the company to not be that nice, he and I were the only ones in the D category. And I felt so exposed. It was like that just told me that everything I believed about myself, bossy, mean, a jerk, evil, it was on display for the world to see. And my face fell. I felt terrible about myself. And I was like, and especially as a woman, who wants a dominant woman in their life? Nobody that I had met. And so I ran out of the room. And the coach who was, leading this group through the exercise, she actually followed me out of the room. And she took me by the shoulders and she looked me in the eye and she said, I see your tender heart. Oh, I was bawling. And I have never forgotten that moment. She saw my tender heart. And I have been able to grow into a person who is still dominant in a healed way. I do take a position of leadership regularly, hopefully in a healed way, sometimes not, and I apologize. But a lot of the time, I'm a pretty loving person. And I do have a tender heart and some dominance traits. And learning to love myself with all of that has been a journey. And I'm quite sure that whoever I sit across from has parts of themselves that they're a little worried about, a little ashamed about, they've been told sometime that it wasn't okay. And guess what? That person is meant to be a blessing in the world. And I know it completely. And that's powerful. People feel it when you can see them as a person who's an adult with choices and agency, who has everything they need to go out there and do what they're meant to do.